Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular board meeting of Wednesday, December 11th. I would like to start by acknowledging that the CBRD is on the unceded territories of the Cowichan, Malahat, Subasit, Halalt, Penelakut, Stuminas, Layaxan, Pauquachin, Dididat, and Pachidat nations who have been here for thousands of years. We are currently experiencing some technical difficulties with accessing our agendas, so we are just going to take a quick recess to get those printed out. Mr. Robbins, do we say 15 minutes or?
15 minutes, thank you.
Okay. All right, we are back and hopefully have ironed out all the kinks of today's meeting. Mr. Robbins, are we good to go?
It appears that I've unfrozen, and I'm just in a couple second delay on YouTube. Sorry, we're just double checking to make sure that everything is tickety-boo here. So we're ready to go. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I'm also making a recording on WebEx in the unlikely event that we lose the feed on YouTube.
Better be prepared.
So thank you for the land acknowledgement. We're moving to the approval of the agenda. There are a few things that have been added since it was originally published. A report from the chair with regards to the Vancouver Island Regional Library, her annual report, recommendations coming out from Committee of the Whole earlier this morning. The chair has requested under notices of motion to put forward a notice to you about a motion that she proposes to bring forward at the next board meeting. And then finally, there was 3 pieces of correspondence distributed. There was copies made to you on your desks and have been distributed electronically as well.
So I'm looking for motions for this agenda as amended, but I see a few hands. So Director Abbott?
I'd make the motion with the correction that item CR3, the Committee of the Whole coming from this morning, item CR3, R32, it says the MNC be established as a strategic partner, so on and so on, partnership policy with an annual contribution. I believe we said with a contribution of 50,000.
With 1 year, you're correct.
Correct. One with a contribution of 50,000 in 2025. Is that correct? Thank you, Director.
Yes. Director Martman?
Thank you. Just to refer down to agenda item 14 BEA1. I was hoping that we may have had an adjusted document because that document does not show the change to the item under agricultural in the MLCP that referred to home plate. Instead of following, we would consider, and it's not actually a motion that we would be passing under committee prior in the agenda. So I want to make sure that that follows. I think I talked to Legislative Service earlier about this.
Thank you. So Chair, the thought was that the recommendations that are coming forward for board's consideration with respect to one of the policies in the at that time, the draft MOCP that Director Martin points out, if that motion is adopted, then yes, under the bylaw section BEA1, you would be giving first reading to that bylaw with that change, should you consider and pass the recommendation. And that was with respect to one of the policies, changing the words from
the word follow and home plate guidelines versus consider.
and
Got it.
that
And that's in a
particular
committee report.
and that's
Yes.
in the committee report that's published with this agenda.
Whew, keeping us on our toes today. Thank you, directors. So with all of that, a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Martman. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Mr. Robbins.
Next item of business is outstanding minutes from November 27th, and the recommendation that the minutes of the regular board meeting of November 27th, 2024 be adopted.
Director Deck. Microphone.
First, apologies for what I'm about to say, and then secondly, I have a request to amend the minutes of the November 27th meeting to reflect that on report 1, R1 and R2, I mistakenly put my hand up to oppose the staff's recommendation when my intent was to affirm it, and that was the case the first time it came around. So if, with your indulgence, Board, I'd love to have the public know that too.
Mr. Robbins, what's our
Looking at
procedure here?
Resolution 24-556, R1 and R2, is that what you're referring to? Those I'm looking at R1, which would, or MRDT, sorry, then,
It'll be from EASC. 24558? Yeah, there we go. These two.
all right. Thank you. Noted, Director Deck, that you were in favor.
Okay, with that, do I have a mover to adopt these minutes as, do I say as amended? Or
Yes.
Yes, as amended, moved by Director Douglas, seconded by Director Martman. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
We're going to move to public input period, and I know that there's at least one member of the gallery that'd like to provide you with some input on your agenda for today. Did you want to?
Welcome. I'd love to welcome members of the public to come and provide public input to us at this time. Just so that you know, you each have 3 minutes where you're welcome to comment on any item on our agenda, and to a total of 15 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes to talk, you can step down, let someone else come up, and then come up again if you have more than 3 minutes, as long as our 15 minutes allow. Input is really valued and appreciated. I want everyone to know that here. And we just request that it's presented in a friendly and respectful manner for all of us. Welcome. Whoever would like to go first, come on up, push the little button on the microphone, the bottom of the microphone there. And state your name and area of residence, please.
Good afternoon, Murray McNabb, 4659 Yellow Point Road, Area H, CVRD. I'd like to speak to agenda item CR4. Good afternoon, all directors. We find ourselves here as one small company is to be driven out of business by the CVRD. Also, the most expensive method will be used in-house and not a contractor. So this is some wise words from a fellow that's a lot wiser than me and had more time to look stuff up. It's been brought to my attention as an Area H, as a resident of Area H of the CVRD, that the staff recommendation and the direction the CVRD board intends to take to tax myself and other residents of Area H for a garbage service that will not be provided during the first half of 2025. Residents will be taxed as if the service has been provided, however, none will be available. Broadly, this violates the user pay principle that area services such as garbage, water, sewer, etc. are provided. Many board members have utilized the user pay philosophy in the past to tax areas or spread the taxes around to different benefiting areas, whereas in the case of a fee for garbage service, there is no justification for taxation in Area H until the service is provided. An example of the allocation of taxation to benefiting areas is the recreational fees for services within the town of Ladysmith, with the outlying areas contributing based on usage. The recommendation regarding the curbside utility fees of $345 per household, regardless of whether the service is provided or not, is a marked departure from any reasonable justification or theory and should not be supported in the vote by any director of electoral areas. I challenge any director, and especially the directors of areas D, E, F, G, and I, to consult with their own residents and ask them to honestly answer the following question. Would you be willing to pay for a full year of service fees whereby you only receive 7 months of service? If you believe your own residents will agree to that question, then by all means vote in the fees as recommended by staff. However, if you believe that your residents should pay fairly for services provided, then you must vote against the recommendation, the recommended fee structure as presented. This fellow had 20 years local governance. He's never voted in favor of a proposal, even if it benefited his area. This brings me to the analysis of the motivation and rationale for staff to recommend taxation of residents where the resident did not receive the service they're being asked to pay. I'm running out of time. Hold that thought, I might be back.
Thank you. I'd welcome the next speaker that would like to come up and provide input. And maybe it looks like we just got Murray to sit down and he's going to get right back up. Looks like you're doing a good job representing the people that are here. Welcome back.
I need the exercise. The staff report dated November 20th, 2024 regarding this issue provides the motivation. Page 2 of the report details the public engagement phase of the program development, including a utility fee estimate that was determined by a consultant. Residents were asked to select a preferred option for the service, and staff claims that the later option with the utility fee estimate of $345 was the public's preferred option. Inclusion of the result in the staff report is misleading, as I suspect that the public were not informed that the first year of $345 would include only 7 months service in some areas. Were the public informed of this? If not, then the data is flawed in that respect. To rely on it as indicative of the public preference is incorrect. Why would staff hold out flawed survey information as justification? Page 5 of the staff report, under the title Fee Schedule proposed for January 1st, 2025, provides the motivational details. Staff acknowledges that residents of areas such as Area H are being taxed with no provision of services and claims it is not possible to construct a fee structure that would keep all utility fees within $345 objective while accurately billing each household based on the level of service they receive. It is possible to construct a fee structure, however, the flawed estimate and promoted fees amounts are not the fault of the residents of Area H, and therefore they should not pay for these flaws. The goals of user pay fee for service type system is not to keep amounts at or below an estimated fee amount, but rather to accurately charge fees based on the level of service they receive. I propose that due to the either poor budgeting or implementation challenges, staff or consultant promised a fee structure that did not consider the implementation challenges of timing. This is resulting in an overcharging of some residents or underestimation of cost of the first year if the new services were not implemented during exactly on January 1st, 2025. So I just jumped down to the bottom, I was running out of time. For the directors of Area D, E, F, G, and I, when you go to vote on the proposal as recommended, put yourself in the place as a director of an electoral area that is not receiving service, yet is being asked to pay for it. Be honest with yourself. For your residents, would you vote to pay for service that are not being received? If the answer is no, then have the courage to vote against the staff recommendation and propose a fair solution. Thank you and good day.
Thank you. And we still have time if there's anybody else that would like to provide input in the gallery. Okay. Looks like next item, Mr. Robbins. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I I know that we've added your annual report of the Vancouver Island Regional Library. I didn't know if you wanted to provide a synopsis at the next item or wait for the other section where you have other director reports. Your
Yeah, I
pleasure.
can wait.
Then we'll move on to committee and commission reports. The first is a report and recommendations of the Committee of the Whole of November 27, 2024. There is one recommendation, and that recommendation is that the Arts and Culture Master Plan be approved.
So moved.
Moved by Director McGonigal, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Mr. Robbins.
The second report is from the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of December 4th, 2024. Director Morrison.
Thank you. For all directors, I would ask if anybody wants any of C1, R4, R7, and NB1 pulled. These have been, oh, Director Marvin put his hand up.
Director Martman, go ahead.
Just making sure I'm getting the right one. I wanted maybe to pull, is it 2? I'm not sure if it's R2 or 2.
Is it R7, number 2?
It may be the wrong one, sorry. I'm just trying, it actually may be further on down. Give me 1 second, please.
Sure. Take your
Or
time.
my apologies for that. Yeah, thank you, later.
Okay. Back
I would
to you.
move those items.
Okay, moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion on these items? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion's carried.
For electoral area directors only, we have an R3 that starts that FA13 and an R3 that has 1 and 2. And a whole bunch of listed referral recipients. And would anyone like either of those R3s pulled?
No? Director Martman, your mic's still on, but not yet.
Seeing none, I would move those items.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? Electoral area directors only. I'll call a question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries.
That concludes that report.
And then we move to CR3, which is the report and recommendations of the Committee of the Whole from earlier today, with the correction to R3 number 2, which corrected to indicate a contribution of $50,000 in 2025.
Director Douglas.
Yeah, I'll move R2 and R3.
And that's everything that's in here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the idea, yeah.
Moved by Director Douglas, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion on these items? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion's carried. Thank you.
And the final committee report is CR4, report and recommendations of the Special Electoral Services Committee meeting of December 6, 2024. Director Morrison again.
Thank you. Just in consideration of the lengthy and debate over a couple of days and the input by the public, before I move this, I am going to ask that everyone think about the regional aspect of the issue that we have before us. It's a weighty one. It's been debated. It's been discussed, and I will yield to our chair for some remarks on this particular item, but it is my intention to move the recommendation.
So it's moved. Do we want to second it to get it on the floor? I'm going to talk about it first. Director Martman?
Thank you. I guess I'm not understand the process because usually we just pull an item. And so when we pull an item, we're not particularly moving it at that point.
Okay, so let's pull it.
My intention was for
Yeah.
discussion, and then it is my intention to move it at a later
Okay.
time in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
So.
And point of order?
Yep.
Just from a procedure perspective, when we deal with this, the last time I think we've dealt with one like this, if there is a different will of the board to have a different motion, we have to defeat the motion on that comes from committee. Is that correct?
Madam Chair?
Robbins?
No, it is just a recommendation, so there's nothing on the floor at this point in time, so there's nothing for you to defeat.
Just follow-up point of order, Madam? And that is, so just to be clear, then any motion could come forward from the floor on this topic.
Technically, it could if there was an alternative motion that's been brought forward for this item.
And just for my clarity, is this electoral area directors only, or all board vote on this one, the committee report?
This is electoral area directors only.
Okay, great, thank you. So, yeah, this is definitely, this is my first big challenge as chair, sitting here. And I have a deep desire for clear communication, not only amongst each other, but also with our communities. So I'm going to make an attempt. I'd first like to address a few things from our correspondence as well as public input. Just to clarify that it's actually very common for local governments to have startup costs that are collected in taxes before a service actually begins. This happens in curbside collection, this happens in water and sewer servicing that have connection fees ahead of receiving the service. Here in this particular situation, it's covering the cost of purchasing bins, trucks, hiring, training, and planning. Different jurisdictions may collect taxes for 6 months, up to 1 year, and even beyond, to prepare for an efficient rollout of a big service like this. It's also common for phased implementation. It's very, very hard to start a service for absolutely everyone across our regional district at the exact same time. And I'm going to reference a little bit of I've been on a few deep dive rabbit holes here, but private contractors, there is another regional district that pays quite a bit more than what is being proposed by our staff, which is an in-house nonprofit model. So as brand new chair, I'm really learning that governance is hard when we don't fully agree and easy when we do. And I'm really trying to do this whole chair thing a little bit differently, and it's not going to be perfect, and so I ask for your grace in this process. I do hope to hold space for us to disagree without division, for consensus to emerge, where we engage in respectful dialogue and work collaboratively to make the best decisions for our region. I want to start by recognizing how much we do agree on three-stream curbside collection. Around the table, I've heard clear consensus that implementing three-stream will help us meet critical goals to increase waste diversion, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, lower waste shipping costs, because we don't have a landfill, we ship all our waste away, and address illegal dumping and burning. These are shared priorities that really reflect our commitment to preserving the beauty and livability of our region. And I'm proud to be at a table with all of you to share that goal. But there also were concerns brought up in our EASC meetings last week that are important to recognize. Concerns about perceived inequities, such as some areas receiving garbage pickup when others aren't, and the burden of the timing of this tax increase alongside with property taxes. Our CAO and staff have provided lots of key information, and I'm so grateful for all the extra time I sucked up over the last week on these topics to me as chair, but it deserves to be fleshed out in committee for all the members at this table to have a full understanding, and so that we're all on the same page. To address this, I've worked with staff and have a notice of motion later in the agenda for the board's consideration at the next meeting for an analysis of these perceived inequities and timing of billing. In addition to using excess of staff and directors' time this past week, which I'm grateful for, I went on this deep dive of three-stream curbside collection services across regional districts in British Columbia. And I'm confident in stating that this is a top tier, Cadillac level of service being brought in at a highly competitive rate. Our solid waste management staff have put an incredible amount of effort into designing a service that is efficient, effective, and that I personally see as equitable. So to stay on track with the timeline that has been communicated to the public for launching this service, which was very clear to be in the spring or summer of 2025, it is essential that we move this committee recommendation forward and the bylaw later in this agenda. Without this step, the rollout will face delays, disrupting the schedule we've shared with our communities because we won't have the money to pay the bills and to move it forward. Staff have delivered on the mandate that we directed in previous decisions and was clearly communicated to the public on the Plan Your Cowichan website with this recommendation that's here before you. So with that, I'll take a speakers list. Director Martman, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I don't pull or have this pulled or have this follow up in front of a board of 16 people lightly. But I want to get into that a little bit. But first, I want to really make sure about being really clear about what this isn't. And this isn't about Three Stream not being a worthwhile initiative. That's not what I want to talk about. I think it is on so many levels, and the chair alluded to those. I also want to state that we have great staff. And this is not about staff and their ability. They are fantastic. And that's on so many levels as well. But when you pull an item, and I remember pulling one about a year ago now, and it was a different issue on an aquifer, I think it's important to consider that we've had a week. And that week is really important to everybody in your thinking process is about keeping an open mind and having a bit of time to think about it. I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm asking you to just maintain that open mind. And I think there's three things that I think about when you pull an item. What should you be considering? Is it a community concern? Is there a principle involved? Or is there new information to consider? And I think this meets all three. My community is aware and very concerned. And in today's economy, every dollar counts. And I thought about going into a few stories, but I'll hold those stories, but I'll tell you that there are some people where even a few dollars makes the biggest difference in their decisions that month. I think the principal part of it is about fairness, and at least the appearance of fairness. And I'll get into that a little bit more. But I'm bringing new information that wasn't in our staff report. It was alluded to, but it wasn't direct there. And so that is what I handed out to everybody, and it's Schedule A of our bylaw for 1958, the consolidated version. And I also handed out a piece of information that was presented at the special meeting last week for the EASC. So Schedule A, this is what we're investing in terms of the rollout. And this is what I want to speak to. So I'm not speaking about the continuation of the service. This is really around the rollout. And you will see that there's Area A has a frequency of garbage collection, recycling collection, and a basic rate. This is what's been happening up to now. With this change, we will be saying under column 4 that is $345 for every household. But you will see everybody gets recycling. So the recycling amount of $38.90 is rolled into next year's $345. That's fair. That's everybody's getting the same thing. So think about it like being an all-inclusive resort. Everybody's getting that benefit rolled into their all-inclusive price. But when you come down to the collection of garbage, you will say some areas are going to continue that bi-weekly starting January 1. But others, like area A, B, C, and H, will not will not have any garbage collection until it rolls out later, probably June 1st area. So you would ask yourself, if you're in an all-inclusive resort, well, why are you getting your garbage collected? Why are you getting this benefit early on if we're all part of this all-inclusive resort? And you say, well, I already have a house here, and we're going to renovate it, but you get the brand new one first. And you go like, whoa, that sounds kind of nice. We'll get a brand new place. Are you going to get a brand new place? Oh yeah, you get your renovation too, but you just get it later on. And so my point is, it rolls out in the end. In a couple of years from now, we'll all be happy. Service will be great and everything will do. But in the beginning, somebody is going to have that benefit of the first few months. And that piece is the piece that I think demonstrates where it's unfair. Now, how much is it unfair? And that's really, I think, is hard for me to evaluate, other than to say I could look at these numbers and say, you get $186.25 for garbage and recycling. Take the recycling off, and then give yourselves 5/12 of that year for that garbage, and you can come to the amount of $61. But if you turn to the other document that I handed you, and this is what was handed by staff, they estimated the service value to be $38. And so there's things that staff know that I don't know. So I'm just going off the top of what Schedule A shows, but I see that staff have come up with a number of $38. There's a fairness element to this whole process. And that's the piece that I want to speak to. It's a piece that I think we have to try to get right and be able to explain to our communities. So option 3 tries to find a way to fairness. Is it the right way? I don't know, but it's a start. We talked a little bit on option 3 about the bear-resistant totes, but I think at least I came to the conclusion that's a bit of a wash. Eventually, everybody gets their bear-resistant totes. And I'd like to wrap this up by talking about regional, because I think this was brought up by our chair of the ASC at the beginning here. And this approach to fairness is about all. Option 1 that we have on the table right now is really not, in my mind, truly regional thinking. Because if you think regionally, you're trying to think of the benefit of the whole. And the benefit to areas A, B, C, and H represents far more users, households, than those are the ones receiving garbage. And so if it's regional thinking, you think in terms of how will it be for those people? And if you're a director of an area receiving garbage, if you're regionally thinking, you'd be saying the same question that Colin Haim asked in his letter that Murray took the time to read out, to say, if you asked your residents how you would feel if it was reversed and you were not receiving it, would you want this to happen? Would you see it as fair? And so that is my view, that we have a situation that if we stay the course, it's going to appear to be unfair. The community cares about their dollars. The community, and I think we care about regional thinking and about the benefit of a whole. This is not about just Area H and our 700 households. This is about 8,000 households across electoral areas. I leave it at that. I just think that perhaps other people have the things to say about it, but I know I want to try to truly represent this in a way that shows to the community that we think about fairness. I think that's truly important. Thank you.
Thank you, and definitely heard loud and clear, and I know this isn't the time to talk about the notice of motion that's later in the agenda, but it is my intention to address all of those concerns. Director Deck.
Thank you. Director Martman, said that in 2 years, we'll all be happy. And I'm not sure if that will be the case if we don't have the money up front to pay for the services that we've promised the entire region. It will be, from my understanding, it will be more expensive and the role will not be as successful. So for me, it is important that the whole region benefits in the long run. And, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Acton online.
Thank you. I just had a question. I appreciate everything that Director Martman said. But I also heard some other comments from yourself and Director Morrison that sounds like our budget has to be in, does it have to be in by tomorrow? Or how much time do we have if we were to actually see a number that reflects the fairness that Director Martman is talking about?
I don't know if staff wants to answer that, but if we were to dive into that, it would mean extra meetings leading up to the holiday.
So that's my question then.
Ms. Bowen's coming up.
Oh, okay.
So through the chair to Director Acton, you would have until January 22nd to make any changes. The only thing is now you make a change to the bylaw. If you don't do the bylaw today, then there'll be a charge from January 1st till you do the new bylaw, so we'd have to do a calculation on that. Then you do what that bylaw is to the next time the bylaw, you have to do a calculation on the number of days of that for each area, and then from then going forward. So there is staff time involved, extra staff time, extra calculations, verification, working with engineering to get that all in. So there would be throughout the time before we do the billing in June, there would be a whole bunch of calculations that would have to be done based on the different days that the bylaws get adopted.
So second question then.
Okay, go ahead.
Can a bylaw like this just have, so when I saw the report initially, I thought it was just setting it like a maximum amount. The fact that things weren't prorated was a surprise to me until we got to the meeting. So and that's not the case? Like if the bylaw said $500, does that mean you have to charge $500 or you could charge somewhere below?
Through the chair to Director Acton, I would have to check with Legislative Services, but from what I have been told, if that's the rate in the bylaw, that is what you have to charge to the clients.
And from what I understand, this is a bylaw amendment, and we can bring forward another bylaw amendment in the new year with new information we get.
Through the chair, that is correct. It's just that there would be all those calculations that would have to be done, and it's based per day, so you'd have to take that rate, divide it by the 365, figure out the number of days for that rate, then the new rate, and then the new rate, so that does take time.
Thank you. I have Director Morrison next.
Thank you, Chair. And I think I want to move the recommended resolution from committee now.
Great, moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Deck. Any more discussion? Director Morrison, do you have anything to say? No?
Before you vote.
Oh, do you want to read it, Mr. Robbins, or?
No, I was just going to point out, just before you vote as well, it is a stakeholder-weighted vote as well, just to remind you.
Right, electoral area director only, weighted vote.
Correct.
Thank you. Director Martman.
So I think this is where we turn to our chair and have confidence that she has thought this through and has a notice motion on the floor. And we defeat this motion and we move forward to what she's recommending to go. Because what I heard her say, things are going to be done. She has a style that may be different. But I think her style is trying to bring the community in. And that this is not a them and us kind of decision. This is a we decision. And I want to give her that opportunity to show how she will shine. So I will vote against this and see how that goes. Thank you.
So I just want to be clear about process. The notice of motion that is later on the agenda is for us to debate at the following board meeting. It's like a note, I'm just giving a notice. And that, can I say the title? I know it's like, we're not so really, no. The title of that notice of motion is for a cost breakdown analysis for the 3-stream rollout. I can give a bit more context if you want when we get to that, but just so you know, it's not that we can defeat this motion and immediately get that new notice of motion. The notice of motion is for the next board meeting in January.
And just for your information, that meeting, if the later report is adopted with regards to your schedule, that would be January 22nd.
I saw Director McClinton's hand online first and then Director Abbott.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, I will be supporting this, and I just want to make it clear that I think any idea around fairness is due to the lack of communication that we've shared with our community. This has been strongly debated and there's a ton of value coming out of this program, and I'm just wholeheartedly supporting it, and I urge all directors to take a leadership position on this critical item. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Abbott.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like Director Morrison to help edify. What are you suggesting in your motion?
I'm suggesting we endorse the resolution that was passed at the special meeting on Thursday, and following that we endorse the 3 readings and adoption in the bylaw section later in the meeting.
Director Nicholson, were you going to put your hand up? You'd be a first-time speaker, or I'll go to Director Martman. Director Nicholson.
I just want to make sure everyone's clear about this. So if the bylaw passes, which inevitably it will, and we get more information, there will be an opportunity to amend the bylaw in the new year. So there is an opportunity to make it more fair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Director Martman, to close.
So I'd like to propose an amendment to the motion. I'd like to
Okay.
add the word average. So if, average of $345 per household.
So I think we're going to take just a quick break to discuss with staff just the implications of that. Is there a seconder for that? No, sorry. Is there a seconder? Sierra, you second Ben's amendment? Okay, so it's
Yes.
seconded, it's on the floor. We'll just take a quick break to discuss with staff.
A recess, thank you.
We are live. Welcome back. So I am going to rule the amendment out of order. I've been given feedback from staff that the province requires a fixed rate in bylaws, so the province wouldn't sign a bylaw with an average.
Point of order?
What's your point, Director Martman?
I challenge the chair.
Shall the chair be sustained? So just so everyone is aware, you are, when I call a question, you are voting if I
To
am.
sustain the chair's
To
ruling.
sustain my ruling that the amendment is out of order.
Clarification to legislative services, as this is an EA subject, is it all board? voting on the chair sustaining, or is it just electoral area directors on the item on the floor?
I will let the chair rule on it, but it's our opinion that is EA directors only, or my opinion.
I think that sounds about right. So shall the chair be sustained? I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Director Martman opposed. That's it. I can't find Director, there's Director McClinton online.
The chair is sustained.
Chair is sustained. Thank you. That was a fun little exercise we haven't done at this table before.
If I'm not mistaken, Chair, the motion as it was originally proposed is still on the floor.
It sure is. Any more discussion on the recommendation of CR4? Director McGonigal.
Thank you,
welcome
and
Muni
and
opinion.
as a municipal director, I have no skin in this game, but I wanted to have some input on the implementation of organic collection within the town of Lake Cowichan, which in January will celebrate a decade. So you are way behind even a small town of Lake Cowichan in the organic pickup. With that implementation, utility rates were increased prior to the implementation of that service to accommodate the purchase of capital infrastructure. With a diversion rate of anecdotally 40% of organics from landfill, those ROIs on capital investments have been seen multiple times over.
Thank you.
Point of clarity,
Director Acton.
we have organic pickup in South Cowichan and have for more than 10 years.
So you have a 40% diversion rate. Excellent.
Director Morrison.
May I ask the question be called?
Yes, I will call the question. All those in favor, hold them up for the weighted vote.
And just bear with me, folks. You're- I think I should put this in alphabetical order one day. I'm just going online here for a moment, please.
McClinton.
McClinton. If I'm not mistaken, I have in favor of the motion, Sagal, Wilson, Abbott, Morrison, McClinton, and Deck.
Thank you. And opposed, hold them high. Acton online, Director Nicholson and Director Martman. Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair.
That concludes the report.
Thank you, Director Morrison. Looking around the table, do we need a little breather? A little, no? We're okay to continue on? Okay. Mr. Robbins, what's next?
Your director reports. The first one is the report, and these are for information, the report from Director Deck and Director Martman and Director Wilson with regards to our Cowichan Community Health Network. They've given you an executive summary of that meeting of November in 2024.
Director Martman. Oh, Director Martman.
Thank you, Chair. And at the board's indulgence, I'd just like each of us to take a second or two just to say our experiences or our impression of this group. So I'll just turn over to Director Wilson and then Director Deck and then myself.
Director Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director Martman. Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't attend the last meeting because at the last moment I had a bit of a problem to deal with. But every meeting that I've gone to so far of this organisation has been very, very productive. They do good work. And I'm pleased to be associated with it. And my thanks to the other two directors for carrying the weight while I've been absent. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Deck.
Thank you, Chair. Our Cowichan is a group of groups, each of which provides essential services to many, many people in our region. But together, there's a synergy that has been created that lifts each group up and magnifies the benefits for all. So the leadership is fantastic, and, I just feel, every time I go, I feel more hopeful. My faith in humanity is bolstered. I just can't say enough good things about this group, and like I told them, I will come back even if I'm not on the commission.
Thank you. Director Martman, you have
Yeah, and I guess, there's times when, as a director, that we're really humbled, and I am humbled by this organization. When we go in there, they are the volunteers, they are the grassroots, they are the people that are providing the services. They call themselves a network, I call themselves a web. They are just able to cover so many areas. But the beauty of this one organization, Our Cowichan, is about bringing all those groups together. And that is just remarkable. And I think that that is a model that we don't have to just use for health. We can use it for our environment. We can use it, we need these tables that bring all our basin societies together. And all of the things that we can really, leverage the knowledge of each other, and then have some kind, have ability to just, you can tap into it through one organization. It's really astounding, and my hat's off to them, and I think this will be my third year back to them, and I appreciate the chair's appointment. Thank you.
Thank you for the report. Director
Chair.
Wilson.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair. I'd just like to emphasise and amplify on what Director Martman has just said there. And on the subject of these, they're made up of mainly volunteers. Any volunteer organisation brings an enthusiasm, a passion to what they do because they truly believe in what they're doing. And that's the whole point about volunteers. And it's something which is dear to my heart that I would like to see expanded, not just in Our Cowichan, but in other parts of our organisations. It's something I think that we have ignored and we need to bring back in again into the fold. Let's see what we can do with more and more volunteers in some of the organisations we've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robbins.
That brings us to your report on the Vancouver Island Regional Library.
Right, and I was hoping to have numbers for how many users we have across the CVRD, but library staff are super slammed right now. I've really enjoyed being a part of the library board. I appointed myself to continue on it. I love libraries and think they provide just such an incredible service for our community, for people to access it, no matter what economic level they are at. I'm in there weekly with my kids, hauling out piles of books. And just love that I know all the librarians by name in the South Cowichan Library. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
And I magically reappear. Thank you. So we're going to move to item 11 of your agenda, staff reports. The first report, excuse me, is from Parks and Trails Division, the Operations Department. It's with regards to a planned relocation of the Parks and Trails Division. There is a recommendation within that staff report. Would you like me to read that out for you?
Yes, please.
That the second floor office renovations and new workstations for relocation of the Parks and Trails Division for $135,000 funded through Function 200 Administration Office Operational Reserve be approved prior to the 2025 budget adoption.
We have staff in the room. Are there any questions for staff? Director Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Off. There we go. In the report, it says that there are 10 staff in the Parks Division. Can I ask how that compares with other departments such as land use or planning? Is it one of the bigger departments in the CVRD?
Mr. Farquhar.
Good afternoon, Chair. That might be a question for either our CAO or for our GM for our admin services because Parks and Trails Division, while we are located here in this building, we also have several staff that work out of our Bings Creek facility. But if you compare that to things like solid waste that run 3 facilities across the region, as well as having staff here at Ingram, it's much larger in size in terms of the number of employees. And in terms of the size of the Land Use Services Department overall, we're certainly smaller than the Land Use Services Department overall.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Mr. Farquhar.
Director Morrison.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines, through you, Chair, the second floor, which is this floor, I'm assuming back that way. So you're relocating from currently first floor, you've got staff in this building, and you've got some managerial outside staff that are in the recently acquired units at Bings Creek as well. So any changes of them coming to the offices here or people here moving there? What's going to be sort of the breakdown of who's going to be here and who's going to be there?
Chair, through to Director Morrison, those staff that are currently in this building on the first floor would be moved to the second floor. Those staff that are currently out of Bings would continue to operate out of Bings. There's not going to be any movement between staff at the Bings facility, which are deployed primarily with delivering our park operations out of that facility, and staff within the Parks and Trails Division that deliver the parks for community and regional parks in terms of planning, the capital program, the Parks Volunteer Program, and administration that are all based in this building right now.
Thank you. Director Martman.
Thank you. My question is more sort of, well, I'm prepping everybody for tomorrow, budget meetings, and trying to understand Function 200, because Function 200 doesn't actually come up tomorrow. So my first question is, because we're taking from operational reserves, what are the reserves? Are they healthy? Is there such a thing? Yeah, I'm not sure how that all works.
Ms. Mohan.
Thanks through the chair to Director Martman. So the Function 200 reserve is a bit orphaned because the operating function of 200 was subsumed into general government in the 2023 budget year, I believe. And so essentially there's reserve funds sitting there that I guess the best way to put it is that the reserve funds going forward that we would rely on for this building will come from general government reserves, which are healthy, very healthy. The orphaned funds that are in the F200 reserve, we've been slowly trying to bring forward opportunities to draw that reserve down. So some of those projects have included, and you'll see some additional ones in the budget materials coming up, there was some work done on Ingram this year, plans for renovating the boardroom to increase capacity. We used some of it for the audiovisual technology replacement that's happening in the boardroom starting tomorrow or Monday, I think. So yeah, we're starting to draw down those reserves. So when this request came in, we did an analysis of the reserve, and there is enough room in the reserve for both this request and the budget service enhancement requests that are asking to use this reserve in 2025, and even after those uses, there will still be a little bit left in that 200 reserve. So when I say a little bit, I think the reserve, when we reported on it in April, was around the $900,000 mark, and after these uses, it'll probably be more like $100,000 or $200,000 left, so something like that. I can get you the exact figures if you give me some time, but that's the answer for now.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Thank you for that. So did I hear you? So so this money could be used for board renovation?
That is correct. And in fact, the report that was brought to the board in April around physical renovation of the boardroom and the AV tech replacement, and also the service enhancement, which is the furniture replacement for the boardroom, are all able to come from that reserve as well as this request,
this.
and then as well as having some left over, yeah.
I want one of those piggy banks. Thank you, Chair.
Director Istash, and then Wilson.
Oh, I didn't think I'd be so quick on the list, Chair. I appreciate it. I'm trying to wrap my head around the 70,000 for the furniture, though, because we're not adding employees. We're moving employees at existing desks just to a different floor. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around $70,000 worth of new furniture. I understand the renovations are creating 2 offices into 3 offices, so maybe 1 new desk would be needed there. And then also with these office space companies, because I dealt with them as an facility manager, they often had really good exchange programs, leasing programs, trading in programs. Have we looked at that? Because I don't see where this is 7 new employees. This is just moving existing employees. So what strategies were implemented to mitigate furniture costs?
Mr. Farquhar.
Thank you, Chair. Through Director Ishtash. So at the end of the day, the furniture that is currently used and the workstation partitions and everything else right now are all residing on the first floor. So with the move of 10 staff from the first floor, all those workstations remain on the first floor. So there's no workstations that we're moving into. It's moving into a space that was vacated by emergency management a year ago, and they took all of their office furniture with them. So what we have is we have a layout based on the design plan that's been integrated into this building for how we basically establish workstation spaces and offices, and applying that to supporting the 10 staff that we moved up to the second floor. So it's an open area that requires all of this investment to take place.
So then maybe that's what I'm not understanding is what's happening with the 10 old workstations on the first floor then? Who's moving there?
Wonderful. So we've got a few staff right now that are working on the second floor. They'll be moving down, and so they'll be occupying those spaces. There's been over the years expansion of the number of staff within the Land Use Services Department, so they'll be occupying those spaces. We also have other staff within this building who will also be provide the opportunity to occupy some of those spaces. It may not fill up the entire 10 right off the bat, but I can look to Ms. Mohan to sort of talk a bit about the space planning challenges overall in this building and how we've seen movement of staff between a few of the floors over the years. But the idea is that the first floor will be able to accommodate their needs and may have a few extra spaces for other needs in the building as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate the answers. I'm still not totally getting, I still haven't heard that we're moving staff throughout the building up and down and around, but we're not adding new staff at this point. So that's why I'm curious, is it's now the right time to spend that full amount? So kind of for the board and what I've heard about the big discussions tomorrow, this is $70,000. Can we buy 1 desk for now and then the rest when we have the extra 9 employees or whoever thinks?
Thank you. If I may add to Brian's comments, in January of 2023, we did a space analysis for our staffing levels at that time, and we were 18 workstations short. And in that time, we've been able to create some capacity, but not enough to actually house those 18 employees, and we've added staff since then. So we are actually overall oversubscribed for this building, and we are undertaking a program of as many cost-effective renovations and desk rearrangements as we can to make the most use of the space to accommodate the staff. So post-COVID, we have some staff that continue to work either fully from home or they work a partial schedule from home that is not ideal given their job roles and that they need to have a workstation in the building, and we don't have room, so.
Thank you. Has this been moved? Oh, Director Nicholson. Oh, sorry, Director Wilson, you're right. You're on my list.
Thank you very much. Good points brought up by Director Istash there as to, and some of the things I keep hearing is more staff, growth of staff, and it really does worry me, but let's get to the point that I wanted to go to here. Function 200, I can't find that anywhere on a website or anything. Where is it that I can find out the details for that one? Hello.
Through the chair to Director Wilson, like, as Barb just mentioned, a couple years ago, it was brought into Function 100, so it sits within Function 100 right now.
That's why I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
it's
so
no
I would look
longer-
in function 100, and it's a subsection of that?
There's GLs that are attributed to that here, different parts of here, plus Canada Ave, which we rent space out of there. That's
Okay.
also within Function 100.
All right, thank you.
Director Nicholson.
I'd like to move the recommendation.
Moved, seconded by Director Staples. Any more discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Director Istash opposed. Motion carries. Oh, sorry, and McClinton opposed, and Wilson opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Moving to SR2, the report from Legislative Services with regards to the 2025 Board and Standing Committee meeting dates calendar.
Ms. Boyd.
Hello, Chair, Directors, long time no see. What we have before you is our 2025 meeting schedule. If you don't approve today, we don't have meetings next year. However, I just want to point out a few things. I thought we'd break the ice there a little bit. There is no meeting scheduled for March 13th as it conflicts with the Local Government Leadership Academy, and I'm aware of 4 already registered for that. And we do have a break in August, nice summer break there. And with that, we scheduled a little extra again in December. We've also included the Accessibility Advisory Committee. This provides an opportunity for the advisory members to book ahead. They have lots of appointments and such, and so it's to work around them. So, any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Boyd? Director Nicholson.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by a number of people. Director Staples. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Is everyone okay to we've got rapid fire bylaws happening here? Okay, let's keep going. Mr. Robbins.
B1 recommendation, B1 through B6 are for all directors. A B1 recommendation that CVRD bylaw number 4533 Water Systems Regulatory Management Amendment Bylaw 2024 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Istash. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And that CVRD bylaw number 4533 Water System Regulatory Management Amendment Bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Deck. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
B2 recommendations that Cowichan Valley Regional District Bylaw number 4582 Dog Regulation and Impoundment Amendment Bylaw 2024 be granted first, second, and third readings.
Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Morrison. Discussion, Director Martman.
Thank you. It's interesting, this one comes to an entire director vote. But so for those directors that haven't heard me at EASC speak to this, I just want to make it, not to change necessarily the vote, but what I'm looking for here is just an awareness that this is something, in my mind, does not meet our strategic plan. Our strategic plan either explicitly or implicitly indicates that we want to support farming. And the removal of the livestock that are killed by dogs in the area adds to, or just takes away one little piece for a farmer. They have to go to civil, only way now, there's no provincial coverage for them. They now have to go to civil court. You want to try to, first of all, prove the dog is to a court who owns it, and then go through that court process to get it. So I just want to say, for transparency, when we have a strategic plan and we have initiatives that meet that strategic plan, we celebrate it. But when we have tiny little pieces that don't, we should be transparent and indicate that. whether you see this as an agricultural or supporting farmer issue or not, the way I see it is agriculture needs all the support it can get. And when we make little tiny edits like this, or little changes, we're just putting one more little nail into the coffin of agriculture. And so that's, just want to bring it to your attention. They've heard me speak at EASC to length on this, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Director Nicholson.
Well, I will be voting against this as well because I feel it's a very minor amount of money. That doesn't happen very often, so it's not something that we should be, I don't know, chasing.
Any more discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Director Wilson, Justice, Nicholson, Martman, and Staples. Looking online. Motion carries. Mr. Robbins.
Recommendation under B3 that CVRD bylaw number 4614, Mill Spring Sewer System Service Area Amendment, that's a boundary extension, bylaw 2024, be adopted.
Sorry, point of order. We have to do the adopted of the dog
Of course you do.
regulation? Yeah.
I'm just testing you. Well done.
I'm supposed to say order, right? I don't say point of order now. I say order.
Order. Oh, you're right. That Cowichan Valley Regional District Bylaw 4582, Dog Regulation and Impoundment Amendment Bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Wilson, Justice, Nicholson, Martman, Staples.
And
Opposed, motion carries.
I just want to make sure, and just this is a good education moment for you as well, is that you're permitted to do the readings and adoption in one, as long as you get 2/3 of a vote on this. That meets that threshold as well, so the bylaw is adopted.
Okay.
Now B3, that CVRD bylaw number 4614, Mill Spring Sewer System Area Amendment Boundary Extension Bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? All those in favor and opposed, motion carries.
And under B4, the first recommendation that CVRD bylaw number 4617, bylaw offense notice of enforcement amendment bylaw 2024 be given or be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Deck, seconded by Director Nicholson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, that CVRD bylaw number 4617, bylaw offense notice of enforcement amendment bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Morrison. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And under B5, the first recommendation that CVRD bylaw number 4618, fireworks sale and discharge regulation amendment bylaw 2024 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Callio, seconded by Director Abbott. Discussion. Director Callio.
When I saw this, I'm just wondering, what is the difference in the bylaw between this is not a new bylaw, this is an existing bylaw. Is there a change happening to this bylaw? Or does it have to be reinstated every year?
Madam Chair, I'll go to the reference, but it has to do with the discharge of fireworks in proximity to livestock.
The 500
I
meters.
believe it's a 500 meters. That's, pardon me? For in electoral areas and Ladysmith that are participating in this. That is, I believe, is a substantive change.
So it doesn't apply to North Cowichan or Duncan or Lake Cowichan?
Correct.
Got it.
I just was
you've got your own.
wondering what the change was in the bylaw.
Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Did we do the motion to adopt? No. That's CVRD bylaw number 4618, fireworks sale and discharge regulation amendment bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Nicholson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the final one for the entire board, If you recall, this is a holdback from the previous board meeting. It's your financial plan amendment bylaw. We didn't do the readings. And so these are before you now. Just to refresh your memory, changes that you've made throughout the year that have substantive changes within that bylaw need to be done through an amendment. That's what this is for. And so the first recommendation under B6, that CVRD bylaw number 4620, 5-year financial plan 2024 to 2028 amendment bylaw 2024 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And the last part of B6, that CVRD bylaw number 4620, 5-year financial plan 2024 to 2028 amendment bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Deck. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And for electoral area directors only, BEA1, the recommendation that CVRD bylaw number 4373, Cowichan Valley Regional District Official Community Plan for Electoral Areas bylaw 2024 be granted first reading, considering that the motion previous to change the wording in one of the policies is now included in that, or implied in that reading.
Thank you for remembering that tidbit. Moved by Director Nicholson, seconded by Director Morrison. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, for electoral area directors, BEA2, first recommendation that CVRD bylaw number 4619, garbage and or recyclable materials collection bylaw amendment bylaw 2024 be granted first, second, and third reading.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Abbott. Any discussion? Director Martman.
Am I tenacious or what? The reason I bring this one up is because and maybe this is my lack of knowledge of bylaws, but when I read the amendment and I look at the handout I gave everybody, Schedule A, the main part of that amendment is to change column 4. Column 4 will now say $345 starting January 1st. The other columns stay in place. So as of this bylaw being approved, Area A will get no garbage pickup, get recycling biweekly, and pay $345. That's what the bylaw now says. Now, I do understand that this is intended to be an interim procedure, but I don't see the word interim anywhere on the amendment, and that's what concerns me, because we are now putting something into a piece of law. And so maybe staff can speak to it, but it makes me uncomfortable to be that explicit and not indicate that this is an interim piece. So I can't vote for this. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Mooney, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Through to the Director. The particular amendment that's on the table now is for the fee adjustment, and staff are working to bring forward additional information for an amendment in the new year that covers the scheduling of the 3-stream as previously supported by the board, as well as the definitions of all the material classes. So that work is ongoing for advancement sometime in the new year.
And just for clarity, it's universal, weekly organics, bi-weekly garbage and recycling, and monthly glass.
Correct.
Director Wilson.
Yeah, I've had trouble with this one, and I eventually have voted in favour, but I'd like to point out, and maybe ask a question as well here, that in Area C, for instance, from January, we will pay $345, but for the first 6 months of that, we will also be paying, or I will personally, in my family, be paying pan disposal as well for the first 6 months. That means that basically we're being over double charged. However, here's the question. What happens if the expected rollout in June doesn't happen? And then pan disposal is no longer collecting. And there has been some discussion on this as to whether we will actually come in on time because of operational delays or anything like that. What would be the situation then?
Well, I can explain that because Pan put out communications that they fully support and they're working with the CVRD to make sure that the transition is smooth and there's no service interruption.
Okay. But I just thought I'd point out that in my particular area, I don't like this, I don't, but it's a way forward. And we will, and Area B and C and those who rely on PAN will also be paying more than their fair share.
Thank you. Any more discussion? I will call the question. All those in favor? And opposed? Director Nicholson, Director Martman, and Director Acton online. Opposed, motion carries.
And the second part, under BEA2, that CVRD bylaw number 4619, garbage and/or recyclable materials collection bylaw amendment, bylaw 2024 be adopted.
Moved by Director Abbott, seconded by Director Morrison. All those in favor? And opposed? Director Nicholson, Martman, and Acton opposed. Motion carries.
Which moves us through to your notice of motion, Chair.
Yeah. So the title of my notice of motion is the cost breakdown analysis for 3-stream rollout, and includes that in early 2025, staff provide analysis on information for the cost breakdown of the rollout of the 3-stream curbside collection program, as well as the anticipated implementation timeline milestones.
And just for the board's knowledge, that will come forward at a future meeting of the board.
And that's all we, oh, comments. Do we talk about this? No, it's just a notice. It's just a notice.
Chair clarity?
Yeah, what's your point of clarity?
We're not allowed to ask for any additional information or anything?
It'll come forward with when it shows up on the board agenda. There'll be much more information. This is just a notice.
Okay.
The chair is just providing notice that a motion will come forward. Chair, that moves you to question period. There's no one online, but there may be
Just a
somebody.
sec, I see Director Nicholson with a question.
Yeah, just for a
please.
point of clarity, I think I asked this before, but to be certain that we will get that information and have an opportunity to have that discussion before the budget is finalized.
Yes.
Thank you.
Pardon me? I'm taking that into consideration and we'll make sure that it's scheduled as such. Which might mean a special meeting. Yep. Yes. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Just so I got this right here, this is going to come forward in January.
Yep.
That's the time we can discuss and ask questions.
Yep.
And in response to Director Nicholson's, because I wasn't clear on the answer, a lot of mumbling going on between people, is that the last question, is that the last part of that budget? Can it be changed at that?
It'll be before it'll be before we finalize budget.
So
Yes.
it could be amended?
Yes.
The budget costings?
The fee bylaw could be
Okay.
amended.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
worst case scenario. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Robbins,
Question period.
has anybody stayed the whole time?
I don't.
No, it looks like no questions from the gallery. Whew.
There is no closed session, which means an adjournment, but before you do anything, you can stay within this meeting for the resumption of your earlier closed session, so please don't go out of this meeting. We'll ensure that those are supposed to be in this meeting will be in this meeting. And a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Moved, seconded. All